Welcome to the Seoul District Business Association Small Business Basics Series. This is an ongoing business navigation education series designed to help small business owners with the challenges of operating successful and profitable businesses. These events are produced in collaboration with Flossom Media, a firm who specializes in marketing to and for multicultural demographics. My name is Stephen Christian, and I'll be your moderator for this session. Today's presentation will last about 60 minutes with some time for comments and discussions. Also, feel free to add your questions to the chat, and we'll be able to address those when we have an opportunity to. And so highly suggest if you just have a question and are in the middle of something, just put it in the chat and we'll be able to look back at that so you don't forget it. And so today's topic is revenue building begins with marketing. And so are you marketing every day, but you don't have a formal background on marketing principles? Do you wonder if you're missing out on critical activities that could boost your bottom line? If so, this workshop is for you. You'll get a tour through the 5 fundamental marketing principles within the marketing planning process, followed by an opportunity to discuss whether your marketing activities are customer-centric and optimized for your small business, given the current realities. Our guest presenter for this workshop is Wendi Butler. Wendi is a small business owner and retired college educator. Before devoting herself to adult education, Wendi had a 26-year career spanning multiple industries: editorial and publishing, co-owner of an export business, sales or marketing manager for 2 infrared technology companies, and general manager for a medical equipment manufacturer. Her 15-year teaching career included graduate and undergraduate level courses in innovation, marketing, quality management, and for Marylhurst University, sustainable leadership and sustainability marketing. She has received multiple excellence in teaching awards, holds an MBA from the University of Phoenix, and has earned a certificate in sustainable enterprises from Willamette University. When she is not found on a Mount Hood trail or road biking with her husband, she writes business blogs, consults ISO marketing, and mentors young entrepreneurs. And so do me the great honor of welcoming Wendi, and go ahead and take it from there.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for that very long welcome. I've had a really varied career in a number of different industries, but really most of them encompass some form of marketing, sales, entrepreneurial relationship building and supporting and those kinds of things. So I am so pleased to be here today to give this presentation for the Seoul District Business Association. And I think we should acknowledge first that this is a super challenging business environment we have here in Portland. And it's a struggle. I'm positive and hopeful that it is a struggle that will get easier and easier every day, and that local businesses will begin to again thrive and return to a thriving downtown Portland. But one of the ways, whenever you have sort of a shaky foundation, sometimes the best thing to do is to get back to marketing basics. So we're going to look at the foundation of marketing principles today. And many of you may or may not have had a marketing class. So this will be interesting to you. Please don't feel overwhelmed. We're going to look at a lot of material today, but each of these categories in marketing that I'm going to talk about today can be broken down and investigated. So I'm hoping to leave you with the information so you can take this further. If you have had a marketing class, and Ernest, I know you have, because I think I taught it, then this will be a good review for you. So here we go. So we're going to look at the fundamental activities in the marketing planning process. These go from just the basics. A lot of times people think that marketing is just selling something or advertising something, but there are a lot of strategies and tactical activities in marketing that we're going to look at today. We'll evaluate the marketing concepts and some of the tasks. Of course, the overall goal is to create customer value. We're also going to identify and target immediate opportunities that will attract customers and go on to build revenue. And hopefully we'll have time for questions in the end. I've got a few questions interspersed in between. And so I'm going to ask you to fill out, if you're, I think so, maybe it was Stephen that was on a treadmill, but if you get a chance to post something in the chat box at those intervals, we can talk about the responses later on. All right, so first look at the marketing planning process. Of course, Benjamin Franklin said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And we've all heard that at some point or another in our business career. But we also heard about businesses who just sort of thrived and grew from a garage. My husband and I started an export business back in the 80s that way. No plan, no marketing, no idea of really what we were doing. Just somebody from Australia wanted a Harley Davidson shipped over from the US, and we happened to be living in LA. Well, one motorcycle turned into multiple motorcycles, multiple parts, and tequila from Mexico, and then computer parts, and then all kinds of things started getting shipped over. We still didn't have a marketing plan. We still didn't have a strategic process. And ultimately, due to economic factors, we ended up closing the business because currencies in Australia fell, and we didn't have an alternate plan. So that's why marketing planning can help us not only address things happening in the here and now, but things that potentially could happen in the future. So have a marketing plan, check your plan, modify it, and then repeat. So let's look at, this is the framework we're going to look at today. This is the marketing planning process. And I borrowed these key elements. They are for research, STP for segmentation, targeting, and positioning, the marketing mix, implementation and control aspects from Philip Kotler's book, Kotler on Marketing. He's considered the father of marketing, and he was a author of numerous textbooks on marketing. And I've created this framework to help my students mostly understand more the marketing process in a nutshell. It doesn't quite look like a nutshell, but it'll become clear as we work through each one of these columns. So first of all, you need to have a whole company strategic business plan. And parts of your business plan should include marketing planning, implementation, and control. And I like to say that your marketing part of your business plan is about 75% of the business plan. The others are, and I've seen you've had on the SDBA other presentations on startup requirements and legal aspects and all that. Those are the parts of planning encompassed within the business plan. The marketing plan are all of the things that you see here. And this marketing formula can be broken down into two sections. We see the strategic marketing planning activities there in blue, research and segmentation. These are the things that happen before you actually get down to brass tacks, so to speak. These are the research, what type of business do you want to start? Who might my customer be? Then segmentation, how do I meet the needs of each one of those customer groups, and how do I position that product to the customer? Next, we have the tactical marketing planning activities, and these are frankly the things that cost money. You can do a lot of the research and STP yourself. But these elements are the ones that once you've made an investment in these areas, you're not completely wedded to those investments. You can make some changes. But for instance, if you decide on a distribution channel and you've created contracts, or you've signed a lease on a storefront, you're kind of stuck there for a while. So those are the kinds of decisions that you want to take very seriously in your marketing planning process, the tactical activity side. So first of all, let's take a look at research. Types of research are primary, secondary, qualitative or quantitative, and then there are some situation analysis tools that you can use. And some of those are pretty critical at the moment, and we'll talk about those in a second. Even small businesses need good market research. You might think that only really big companies do market research, but that just simply isn't true. It's particularly important at startup phase. The good news is that you can do much of it yourself. Whether you're a small manufacturer, restaurateur, fashion designer, or you have a clothing store, good market research can help you know who and where your customers are, increase your market size, and possibly even help you secure funding. There are several types of research and data collection that you should know about. First is the difference between primary and secondary research. And I think these are fairly intuitive. Primary research is that research that you kind of direct to have done for a specific purpose. So you might have a focus group or an interview done, or you might even observe customers interacting with your product. These can be free, so you can do Survey Monkeys for minimal cost or free, even if depending on the frequency that you use that service. Or primary research can be very expensive. So you get a focus group. A marketing firm often does focus groups for companies to determine certain aspects of their marketing plan. The advantage is that you get to design primary research yourself based on what you need to know. So second, on the slide is the secondary type of research. And these consist of industry and government reports, trade reports, and they're gathered from already published sources. Now, if you're a small business and you feel like you don't know enough about the industry that you might want to go into, this is probably the first place to start because it is either free or low cost. You can get reports done through Dun & Bradstreet, Qualtrics, Statistica, some of those. Portland's Book of Lists is by the Business Journal, ranks businesses and can be useful for the competitive analysis, so that secondary data that's important. I think those run around $299. Secondary research is also available for product categories, competitive analysis, so market size, pricing, and ongoing market surveillance. Again, these tend to be expensive, but in a local market, much of this information can be also gleaned online. Here is an example of free secondary research that you can get from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And they extract much of their data from census taking. And since we just completed a census, this information, I'm not sure if this is the updated census information. It does say, yeah, updated June 7th, 2021. This would be a pretty useful report on the Portland regional area that would allow you to go ahead and extract some information on, employment figures in Portland, whether you're going to be able to find, skilled workers, which counties have the highest unemployment rates, those kinds of information that's useful for your marketing plan. Next is quantitative and qualitative data. So, some of us, like myself, are less skilled at crunching quantitative data, which is basically facts, figures, stats, numbers that you can express in all different types of mathematical formulas. So I always tended to hire somebody to do that kind of analysis for me. But qualitative data simply means you collect people's ideas and perceptions about your product. The quantitative data side of that would be if you were rating them or rating their responses in a 1 to 5 type of format. So then you could do some mathematical analysis to see if that data you collected was meaningful. So what's important is that you design research studies to elicit the type of response that will be meaningful for the purpose. So, how many people prefer one type of material over another, for instance, if you're trying to find a material for, say, a new shoe design or something. What styles do they like? You can do surveys and analysis and both qualitative and quantitative types of data outputs. So next you have situation analysis tools. These are something I think most of us keep an eye on right now. And one of those things we could add to perhaps is the vaccination status and how that might impact customers coming into our stores in a local area, because that would determine how free we were to feel to interact and a lot of things. Situation analysis is important, and it includes tools like a SWOT analysis. So if you don't know what that is, I'll show you an example in a minute. Trend analysis, where's the Portland market going? A competitive analysis. Yeah, have we lost competitors? Have we gained competitors? Who are there? What are their products? How do they compete against our products, services, that kind of thing. And then a PESTLE analysis, hard to do these days because it actually means you have to tune into the news, which doesn't always make for a fun day. But that stands for the analyzing the political, economic, social, cultural, technical, legal, and environment areas of the United States and globally if you're planning on becoming a global customer. Tells you what's going on regionally, nationally, and again, globally if you want to do a global outreach. Above all, your market research should be honest. If your research shows your product is a dud, don't launch it. Author Paul Resnick said you should ask 3 questions to remove the blinders and be realistic. These examples include, what are 3 problems and what are 3 opportunities? Which 3 critical areas could bear improving? What are 3 favorable and 3 unfavorable adjectives customers use about our business? These all require research to respond. And the only way, one of the things I find in my consulting business quite frequently is a business owner who is absolutely wedded to a product because maybe it was their baby and they started out with that and they spent all their emotional effort into building up this product line and they haven't deviated from the original form, fit, and function. Research will tell you where you need to change and help you ask those hard questions. So this is an example of the SWOT that I was telling you about earlier. It's a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats matrix. Basically, you would write down what your competitive, say you want to do a competitive SWOT, write down what your strengths are in the market, what your weaknesses might be, and then of course, opportunities or chances to improve or chances to enter a certain product category or a certain market. Threats, what obstacles are there? And what are your competitors doing? So besides business analysis, a SWOT can also be used in, say, a leadership context. You know, do you want to improve your leadership skills? What are your strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats there? I've often had some of my students do both the SWOT analysis on a product line or a SWOT analysis on their overall business model or a SWOT analysis on their leadership characteristics so that they could be the leader of their business that they hope to be for their employees. So those are ways you can use a SWOT analysis. This is a slide showing what a potential competitive analysis might look like. And again, you collect the data on your competitors, buy it, use primary or secondary research if you can get it. And then you rank your primary competitors, 1, 2, 3, usually 3, 4, 5, however many competitors you have in a local area. Look to see what they're doing, come up with some factors that you want to make your product or your store or your service stand out, and then you rank yourself. This tells you what work you might need to do in the future to compete in your local market. In the chat, just write down one type of research that you think could tell you more about your business and your customers. And if you don't have access to the chat at the moment, don't worry, but we'll look at this a little bit later. And if there are any questions about any of the research, write those down too at the same time. So next column we're going to look at is segmentation, targeting, and positioning. For small businesses, this is really about figuring out which customer groups are most likely to buy your products or services based on needs. And that's why we segment the market. We look at needs for different demographics that have different geographic characteristics, different behaviors, psychographics, which is the personality, the motivation, or the lifestyle of the customer. People have defined wants and needs, and because of the way our market is now, you can get what you want pretty much instantaneously. So really working on this STP part of your planning process will help you more closely define what your customer desires and how can you provide the best value. So once you know also where the group of customers' needs or wants are, it'll help you focus your marketing resources. So you're not wasting resources on customers not interested in your product. Once you've defined the potential market segments, you select the niche or groups that most likely fit your product profile and strategy. So for example, you might start with a local target before going national. It sounds like most of your businesses are local businesses, which is great because you operate within the milieu of your neighborhoods, of your part of Portland. I don't know if any of you do business outside of Portland, but it's a market you can really get a handle on fairly easily. With the internet, though, you might want to sell, for instance, Jacqueline, some of your clothing could be sold on the internet. That would be more of a targeting and more national audience, and there are ways to target with digital marketing. But only target a group of customers that are within your budget and abilities to serve. Finally, you must come up with a marketing mix strategy. So product offering, price, sales channels, and promotions that position, and that's that last part of STP, positioning, that position your offering in the best way to meet customer needs while also differentiating yourself from the competition. And differentiating in marketing is just how can you be completely different from what your competitors are selling in the market? Because there are a lot of similar products, and there are ways to differentiate in a number of different marketing mix activities, and we'll look at those in just a minute within the marketing mix section. So let's say you have your segment and you've chosen your target. Then you can use a positioning tool to evaluate where you are in the competitive field. So let's see what a positioning tool looks like. This is one that marketers use, and you can doodle this on a napkin if you wanted to sometime. If you know your market fairly well and you know your competition, you just draw an X and Y axis, look at the types of brands that are out there, and find two factors you want to measure against. So obviously price and quality would be two factors you might want to measure against. You might want to measure price and status. If it's a product that has that sort of positioning, that's a cachet type or a status type product, luxury brand. And the way this works practically is that we go back to research. We might take a focus group, or we might take a group of customers and do a survey based on the variables that we want to study. In this case, it's poor quality, low cost. We ask them on a scale of 1 to 5, which products do you consider poor quality, say, or rank these products in terms of your perception of what they might cost. So these are some of the questions you can ask and marketers ask when they create a positioning map. Now, this is something that, again, you're probably not likely to do with a small business, but I've encouraged a number of small businesses that I mentor to kind of try this mental exercise on the variables that they find most important for selling their products. And it's amazing how just putting the names of the companies and where you perceive them to be on a map like this will help you make the marketing decisions using your marketing mix that we'll talk about next, that will reposition your product, because positioning is all about where does your product fit in the mind of the customer. And we can all think of products right now that we have certain perceptions about. So if we think of a list of products, we kind of rank them. Like if you're going to go to, Rite Aid or Dollar Store or Target, we kind of can rank those types of stores and to where they fit on kind of a scale, a positioning map like this. So it's important that we know what our customers are thinking. I was thinking about sneakers when I was preparing this slide. Could be any brand, but when I was a kid, the only brands that were available were Keds or Converse. So if you were like my family, it was always low cost and high quality. I mean, we had 4 kids and we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so you didn't get a choice. 40 years later, when my boys were in high school, they had an explosion of shoes to choose from, depending on if they were running, playing basketball, or if they just wanted to be fashionable. So I was looking up shoes just to be curious about what they were selling for these days. And there was actually a Nike waffle shoe that sold for $475,000. And it was the most expensive sneaker ever auctioned. Now, obviously, if we looked at positioning, that's going to be a luxury status shoe, right? I mean, obviously it was auctioned, so it's not being sold for that price direct from Nike, but at some point it was still a luxury status type shoe. It became rare and now there's super demand for it. But the most popular shoe style in 2020 was actually the Nike Air Force One Low. This so-called basketball turned lifestyle silhouette sold for $90. So on this positioning map, it would be more affordable and attractive to a wider audience. So if we were to measure luxury brand shoes on this map, we might wish to measure different variables like high status, low status, high price, low price. And that helps us position not just competitive brands, but Nike probably does an exercise like this within their own shoe lines to determine if they need some spot on this positioning map where there might be a competitive advantage. Obviously, Nike would never look at poor quality and low cost, and because there's a blank field there, create a shoe for that segment. But they might look at low cost, high quality, and decide they could do a quality shoe at a lower cost, and I'm sure they do, that fits a larger market and satisfies a larger group of customers. So STP helps us figure out how to place our products in front of the right people based on the motivations that cause people to buy. And using a positioning map helps us really know how our product actually appeals to its audience, depending on select marketing mix variables. So as we see with sports shoes, these reasons may be economic, aesthetic, practical, or lifestyle, technical. So some people don't want to buy last year's technology, or even psychological. Sometimes brands make us feel a certain way. Here's another example. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but when we look at this, that pink dot, by the way, is a Yugo, in case you can't see that very clearly. Very low quality, very low price. But we can look and see there are some market opportunities here as well, and probably in the quality price area, since that's fairly underdeveloped for cars when the type of this map was done. So the point is, if your small business is in a crowded market with a number of key positioning variables, like price, customer service, reliability, and quality, do some customer research to find out what your customers think about your products. Use scales like, scales of 1 through 5, maybe a Survey Monkey, and see what the response is. Some competitive research combined might tell you about opportunities, again, in the quadrant that looks reasonably open for a new product. All right, so in the chat, what is your unique value proposition? So when you look at those things like quality, do you focus on that the most? And some of you might not have a product per se at this point, but you might offer service, and it may not be your business, but if you're in business for somebody else, what is your unique value proposition? All right, so we're going to move ahead to marketing mix, and this is one of the most costly and laborious activity within the marketing plan. I mean, there is a lot to unpack in the marketing mix area. So we're just going to look at just some of it today, and this could be an entire presentation on itself. So the key aspects of the marketing mix are product, what's the price, where are you going to distribute, and how are you going to promote your product. So you can see each one of those could be take a specialty department to fulfill the requirements for those. There was a marketer named Lauterborn who created, he wanted to replace the marketing mix to make it more updated. And so he came up with these 4 C's, which I find actually much more conducive to what we do today within the marketing mix. And that is that with products, we provide a customer solution. For price, we're considering customer cost, and that's the cost to get the product. It's the cost to replace the product. It's the cost to service the product. We think about putting a price on a product, it goes out the door and that's the end of it. That's not really the case. Place is customer convenience. And so are we going to distribute on the internet? Are we only going to sell on the internet? Are we going to have direct sales? Are we going to have a sales force? Do we have an actual physical location? Those are expensive decisions that are made in the customer convenience category. And then promotion, which is obviously your advertising, your public relations, your flyers, your direct mail, all those things that you do, internet mail. Customer communication is the outreach that you do to connect your customers and to create a relationship with them. And that is obviously super important. So then product lifestyle is basically just a tool that we can use within the marketing mix. So if you're in manufacturing, you want to track the life cycle of that product as it goes from birth to death. Within sustainability marketing, not only do we track products from birth to death, but we track them as a full circle product as it goes from birth to death through disposal, through recycling, through its final, hopefully leaving no trace of it behind. Or if it has a trace, it's been encompassed within some other products and it has a new life, it's reborn. So that's the ideal with sustainable marketing. And we still want to know, though, the lifespan of a product. If it's 10 years, there's lots of decisions we need to make in year 8, where we start our sales force contacting customers and saying, hey, your device is going to expire in 2 years. This is the next generation. What would you like to start looking at the features and benefits for the future now? If you're in fashion, which Jacqueline is getting launched, you have to think about what are next year's styles going to be like. And you have to think about that, 6 months ahead of time. So these are the sorts of decisions when you think about product life cycle. You have to always be one step ahead. Now, of course, we have brand strategy, and that's connected to customer communication. Obviously, brand strategy is super important because it is what actually provides value to your customers. It also communicates the image and the personality and instant recognition of your product, your storefront, your restaurant, your food, your whatever it is you're selling. A brand strategy is critical, important, critically important for recognition and for relationship building with customers. Okay, so is there a marketing mix element that you think is worth reviewing because of current market conditions? Has demand for certain products increased and now your product doesn't contain the features or the design aspects maybe that people want right now? What about product quality? You know, everyone's now with diminished resources, people are focusing on quality more than ever. We want to make sure our products are also not disposable for the environment. They last for a long time. Customer costs. Are we taking into consideration what it takes to get the customer to our location? One big customer cost right now, unfortunately, in Portland is people not visiting the city as much as they used to. We need to invite people back. We need to make it not inconvenient to come downtown, to be attracted to our downtown neighborhoods once again. And I'm talking about people all around Oregon who have tended to stay away in the last year. We need to find ways to reduce the cost of travel, the cost of mental fear, whatever it is that are stopping people from going to downtown Portland. We need to make that convenient. And when they get there, we need to make sure they get great service. They're visiting a restaurant, they're coming into your shop. You know, you need to differentiate how you care for your customers in this day and age. And then, of course, distribution coverage. If you're an Oregon-based business, are you distributing throughout the area in a way that's efficient, that people get their goods and services on time, that's easy to order through an internet portal or whatever it is you use? Next is your Salesforce strategy. Now, we think of Salesforce oftentimes falls under promotion, but it, again, is a sort of a separate marketing discipline all its own. There are books and books and books written about sales people and sales efforts and how you can improve your sales interactions with customers. Then promotion programs. Obviously, small businesses are operating within a very limited budget oftentimes, but there is a lot you can do that's low cost, and it just takes time. I'm working with a young man now who's just started a business, and it's at that stage where it's grown beyond kind of what he can handle, and yet he doesn't have the revenue yet to hire someone. So he spends most of his evenings on online promotion programs, links and chat rooms and web pages, and having friends do reviews for him, these kinds of things. And it's all, it's hours and hours of labor, but that's what it takes to get started. Next is financial strategies. These are parts of, in this particular case with the marketing mix, can you afford your public relations program? Can you afford that new direct event that you want to hold? How's your pricing given the current market? Do you need to change your pricing? And if so, how's that going to affect your operational, efforts? And next is R&D and research and development for new products, for innovative products, super important. That might be something you want to look at if it's another product line that you think would be attractive for as a next gen device or product. So which marketing element do you think would be worth reviewing? Finally, we'll look at implementation. So implementation is kind of where the rubber hits the road. And I used to tell my students every good launch is vulnerable in implementation. I mean, how many of you have had great ideas and great plans, but then all hell breaks loose when you start implementing? Your kids don't cooperate, the dog doesn't do what he's told. Everything happens, even you had this great day planned, and then in the implementation of it, it just all goes down the chute. So same with companies. Lots of change needs to be anticipated, lots of patience, lots of push through just to get a plan implemented. So think about the great ideas you've had. Again, when there's a failure, it nearly always happens in implementation. So your budget's really about the assumptions that you make and what you expect them to cost. Budgets aren't set in stone, but do try to make them reasonable and actionable. If you're budgeting for a certain product line or a certain promotional effort, and it's not enough, it's not going to be able to be implemented. So try to be as practical and nail down the budget, anticipated budget, as much as you possibly can. So the tactical plan of implementation is your action plan. Lay out monthly and quarterly objectives and then decide how you're going to achieve those. Include who is responsible, the timeline for completion, resources, contingencies, or options, and most importantly, how you're going to measure those. Who's going to decide on corrections, on the correction course that might need to happen, and also additional resources that might be needed. So make sure you've got people in charge of your plan, not just a plan. It might just be you. You might be it. But if that's the case, decide when and how those tactical activities are going to be achieved. So example, a company might decide to improve its service capabilities to strengthen its positioning against a strong competitor. As a company, devote some time to discussing ways to improve your service. Set the detailed goals, assign someone to monitor progress, including the effect on sales or improved customer satisfaction, but then report back every month. Finally, resources are a big part of implementation. What talent, production, capabilities, or materials are you going to need? Track financial investments carefully, but don't worry if you have to revise to be realistic. That's just a part of business. However, don't be vague on your targets. Being vague on targets means you're probably going to have a hard time achieving them. So on an implementation plan, have you had some difficulties implementing a plan that you've come up with recently? It's a crucial part of the marketing plan. A lot of times people just, oh, this is my product, this is what we're going to do for promotion and where we're going to distribute the product. But if you don't say how you're going to implement it, then that's a whole key part of your marketing planning that is not present, and it's going to be very difficult to succeed. So when do you think you should review your business plan as part of implementation? Every day, once a quarter? Should you review your entire plan from scratch at least once a year, or just whenever the mood strikes you? So jot that down in the chat. All right, finally, control. This is a key portion of a business plan, and it's one that a lot of people struggle with just because the control aspects have a real kind of required more of the analytical brain side, where a lot of entrepreneurs are very creative, they're very visual, they have great ideas, but sometimes this side can be neglected. Obviously, if this isn't your thing, you can get a really great accountant. You can get somebody that does your budgeting that can help you with reports that'll make it easy to track. But I think most of us are really comfortable with key numbers. And these are some of the key numbers that don't go as deep as some major companies like pharmaceutical companies or some of the larger companies have to crunch. It's just reams and reams of data. So we all kind of lose sleep over financials more than probably any other part of the strategic plan. And you've probably heard the old saw from department store inventor, ad exec John Wanamaker that goes, I know that half of my advertising dollars are wasted, I just don't know which half. So that's part of that activity assessment. When you decide in your marketing mix strategy that you're going to do an outreach activity, or you're going to do some kind of an event, or you're going to place an ad, you need to know if each one of those things actually brought in customers. If they brought in customers, what did those customers cost? And these are the kinds of information that will lead you to make good decisions in your marketing plan. This is why, one of the reasons, there's a constant struggle in many companies between the marketing execs and the finance VPs, because VP of marketing and the VP of finance are at odds over how to justify the investment of the marketing dollars. So you need to be able to answer, is your marketing program easily justified on basic return on investment measures? So you can see ROI there under cost analysis, and also margins. Are you making enough margin on each piece? Some of the controls you might be familiar with are sales analysis, cost analysis, return on investment, web analytics, where people used to collect this data by hand or just on a computer Excel spreadsheet. Today's marketing directly targets products and service down to the individual level, and you can get data relatively inexpensively. So for example, if you get a lot of customers contacting you through Facebook or Instagram, Facebook CRM now connects customers to your business inbox, including giving you the data you need to personalize responses and collect data. Google data analytics reports are commonly used by marketers to measure hits on ads or stickiness on a website. So that's how long somebody hangs around on your website. So if you're going to put up a website and you have also a portal where customers can purchase through your website, it's really important to collect that information. And you can subscribe to Google Analytics or Facebook Analytics and collect some of that information. All right. So what is your go-to business metric? Is it sales analysis? Do you look at total sales costs, time to close? Is it margins? Do you keep a close eye on your margins? What about the key financials? We call those, if for short, you can call them BIC. They'll help you remember. It's the balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow. Cash flow is important. You want to know where your money's going. It's coming in, it's going out, but where is it going out to? And then post-market surveillance. Post-market surveillance is typically done after sale feedback. So Yelp is very popular and very common today, but there are a lot of other venues for customers to give you feedback, and somebody in the company needs to be paying attention to that. You should always respond to negative feedback, by the way, and make it right with the customer, because a customer who complains online and then doesn't get a response by the business owner or somebody from the company, it looks like they don't care what the customer thinks. So just put a short, brief note that says, sorry you had that experience. We really want to make it right. Call number today and we'll take good care of you. That's all customers want to see. And they're more than happy to give you another chance usually. And then social media analytics, again, Google, Facebook Analytics, Instagram. I think Instagram and Facebook are together and issue the same reports now, from what I understand. So those are ways that you can get good feedback from your web. All right, lots of information we covered today. And I did want to leave some time for some questions and to look over some of your responses in the chat if you had a chance. But based on what you learned today, which marketing functions provide the best opportunity for immediate engagement or benefit for your business? And now I'm going to disengage and look for the chat. Let's see if I
Didn't look like anyone has. Oh, I believe Stefan said,
I'm not sure I answered that first one. Yeah.
You're not sure it was answered?
Well, what was the question you first just asked now first?
I'm happy to open up if you just want to talk. Oh, you're asking which question was the first one?
That you just asked, yeah.
Yeah, let's go back. go back to that one. If I can get my screen share up again.
You said marketing or something. What marketing
Yeah,
element?
here we go. Okay, so name the type of research you think you could do that would tell more about your customers, tell you something more about your customers. So would it be like a primary or secondary type research, or what type of research could you do?
Okay, well, I said what would be helpful for my business would be where do people get most of their information? Online, print, TV, events, gatherings. Because my business is in the, information sharing, right?
Okay. Yeah, so can you say your name first so I know who's speaking?
So I'm Fawn and I'm with Fawn Iverson.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
with Watson Media.
Yeah, I've got you on there now. For some reason, my controls I've got the control boxes lower, so I can't really see. There we go. Now I've got it. So I think that for communication services, primary and secondary research you'd want to do is, first of all, secondary research. Do you have an avenue for getting feedback from the media that you produce?
I mean, I appreciate what you were saying about Yelp and Google, like being on Google and then Google reviews and getting people to kind of, and then you're absolutely right. We did have somebody paying attention to that for a while, and but then that person stopped. But it was kind of helpful that I didn't even recognize that kind of porthole was actively functioning about our business, and that we could solicit sort of customer feedback too sometimes, and that was good because it also showed our profile, but then it got some honest reviews.
Yes.
And so Google was a big one for us because I feel like Yelp is more it didn't just quite fit us, right?
Yeah,
people don't really yelp about me.
No, they don't. It's more retail, product delivery, that kind of thing. For media, the feedback is interesting for that. I think that a lot of it has to do with response rates. So do you post your media? I've seen on your website that you've got quite a number of videos that you've posted. And those are shared on YouTube. I think I saw connections to YouTube and all that. So obviously, one of the very common measurements is the like and that kind of thing. And with YouTube, that is a key indicator of how well people like your presentation. But it doesn't really tell you the information that you really want. Is this media hitting people with the message that we really want to deliver? Was the money that we spent on this presentation worth the audience share? So you want to know audience share.
What's interesting, Wendi, is just because media has been under such attack, people don't know where to get trusted information anymore. It's like really difficult to discern what's the truth and what's not the truth. And that's been a big topic of conversation. So I appreciate it again on marketing is what are the trends of the world, right? And how do we adapt to it? So, doing things like online Zooms and stuff, because we did a survey last year with some small businesses. And when they talked about, sort of trusted sources, most of them were getting it from word of mouth from people who had directly experienced something. It's like, how do you make a decision? And it's not so much what they read or online or something. It's what someone they trusted shared with them who had already had that direct experience. So,
And, you know,
yeah,
that's a critical point that you just made. I'll just build on a little bit. There's in marketing, a lot of times with promotion, and especially with public relations, companies use and businesses use luminaries to get that message out. It's usually somebody that people trust. You know, you see in drug commercials for, you know, for geriatric medicines, you often see old movie stars that, you know, people used to like. And so it's true. We tend to believe people we trust. And so I think a lot of that has to goes towards credibility as an entity. So, you know, Chipotle, I'll use that as an example, had a terrible public relations journey over the last few years. But it worked super hard to build up trust with people again, super hard. And that had to do all with its communications with people. It had to do with, you know, free lunches for free, come in and get free food. But, you know, it also had to do with a reputation plan and getting people to share about Chipotle, that's safe to eat there again, and word of mouth, and slowly they built that brand up again. But that was a very difficult process. And I think some of that can be sped along by, you know, finding a key luminary, finding an internet influencer that can actually promote your message. Now, with Floss and Media, do you have any key Portland luminaries or key people that can preach your message for you?
Oh, well, for us, it is our CEO and editor-in-chief. So he's very community activist. He's, you know, has an extensive background in mental health, and, you know, has done, you know, has raised some foster kids and sits on lots of committees and is interface. So he's probably something we do. I think we could do a better job about getting him more consistently out there, because when he's out there, he's trusted, or when he's in a room, he's respected. But, you know, sometimes from our marketing standpoint, we're not doing all we could to do to just get, you know, have a visible message from him like weekly or something like that. I think we think about that a little bit. And yeah.
And truly, some of the channels are different now, right? I mean, it might have been where you'd have editorials or you'd have writers writing articles on him every time he did something, you know, great for the city of Portland. I think you're talking about John Washington, right?
Yeah.
And so, but honestly, people don't read newspapers like the way they used to. If they go online, it's because they've hit, you know, like me, the Oregonian Live comes up with, you know, some headline, and so you hit the headline. So it's a tough challenge, and that's one of the reasons I think businesses, you know, our small businesses in particular, really struggle. That we're lost in this milieu of messaging in this particular time even more, and that there are a lot of competing voices out there. And how do we get our small business voice heard?
Hey,
I think,
you know,
go ahead.
Sorry, Wendy, to interrupt you, but Maurice, are you still with us? Maurice Cox, are you there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Hey, I'm kind of curious what you're seeing in terms of the real estate market, in terms of research, because it's just, you know, COVID. It's like, I know a seller's market right now, but, you know, it's just like, is there anything typical about, well, of course, you've said you've been doing it for 3 years, but it's just, it seems so, what research is being done in the real estate market?
For me, I just do networking. I go to I do events like networking that invite people to come to my friend owns a Jamaican restaurant. And so I share the culture with them, do some networking, get to know them. And then I take it from there. And that's how I get my clients.
But I'm saying, like, what are you seeing in terms of trends? Like, you know, the interest rate is low, right?
Yeah.
But the inventory is also very sparse. And with the Portland market particularly, you know, there's the housing costs are high, right? They're high.
Yes,
and
they are very high.
Taxes are high for a homeowner here. And there's just a number of things. It's like, Wendy, I'm just with you, like, how would Maurice begin to look when circumstances are like they've never been before? How can you go to research?
Oh, I just, the research that I do is usually try to get information. So how the market is, you're right. It's a very tough market. I submitted like 3 different offers for 3 different clients and got beat it out, with over 30,000 of an asking price. And so when you see situations like that, you just want to study the area that you're dealing with and build rapport with the listing agent. And that's what I do. I try to build rapport, I try to build communication, and try to find out the terms that will suit their clients best. And so with that, I've been getting better results. Also, with the interest rate being very low, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. But what I do know is with the eviction moratorium coming to an end, I think they extended for next month. We should see some more inventory coming on the market. And the reason being is I spoke to a lot of investors, a lot of homeowners that landlords that own homes, and they want to sell at least half of their inventory. Specifically, my friend Joe, he has 8 homes. He wants to sell at least 5 of them to gain all that money he lost from renters not being able to pay rent. And so you're going to see more homes come on the market.
Wow. Yeah, the real estate market is a real tough one right now in Portland, and not just for, extremely hard for renters, but extremely also hard, as you said, for property owners. And I do think there will be a big shift in the real estate market in Portland, and that's part of that research again. And it sounds like you're doing a great job of it. Not only are you looking at what information is coming out of the real estate community, but you're also, you've got your ear to the ground with people that are actually in it. And so, one of the things when I started my export business with my husband is we didn't know anything. But it's amazing if you're starting up a business and you can develop a small community of other business owners in your own business, in your little community. It's amazing what you can learn, what you can share. And I think that is really the only way to get a business district together to be cohesive, is that sharing and cross-marketing among each other. So for instance, there's if you've got a health food or a health food store or something, and then there's a gym next door, support each other, co-market with each other, because it's double bang for the buck.
Yeah, might I add that I also am a cook. I've been coming from the islands, we had to cook to eat. We didn't have a lot of like ready to make go food. Everything was organic. Which if I was hungry and needed a snack, I had to go outside and pick it off the tree.
Nice.
That was fine. I love that. Yeah, like my fruits, I love it. To this day, I miss it, but every time I go back to visit, I just take time to really appreciate it. And so whenever I cook and make a meal or food, I tend to just use that to mix that in with my business, because that's my passion, right? And so that's how I get so many clients. Because some of them have never been to Jamaica, but I just bring Jamaica to them with the food. And so they get that experience of what the food tastes like, and now they can understand, wow, all the flavors and that robust feel. So they know why that.
Did you say you were a CNA as well?
Yes, I am.
So that probably plays into that, I would imagine, as well.
Oh, yes, it does. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think building our skills, it also provides a differentiation feature. If you can do something that your competitors don't, you have a lot of experience in a lot of different areas, it looks like. So if you can consolidate all those areas, and also, different areas of expertise also increase influence with certain customers. So you might just casual offhand comment. Next thing you know, you're off on a discussion about food and somebody's buying your house, right? I mean,
absolutely. Yeah, I offer a recipe every time I sell a house.
That's all. That's awesome.
Yeah, I get I get an engraved cutting board, and then I give a recipe with their name on it. Yeah.
That's that extra customer service touch with a customer that will also encourage recommendations. And I think that's something you could really leverage. Even put on the back of your recipe card. Don't forget to recommend me to your if you're looking for another house.
Yeah, that's how I get most of my referrals.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Wow.
Sometimes I don't have to market, but I do like to do marketing because I like to go out and connect with people. And I think some people, like, they're scared, they're on the fence, they really don't know what the market is exhibiting. And I think when I go out there and I share, hey, yes, it's a seller's market, but look, you come in, don't be scared if you're coming in and you buy a home and you got to pay 20 or 30,000 over action. You're coming in at 2.9, 2.8, 2.6 straight, you're gonna get that back at the end.
Yeah.
You know,
Good
long
point.
term, right? Yeah. So they were like, wow, I never thought of that. You know, I said, okay, well, now you know, right? Yeah. So I always try to bring value and just try to, you know, share substance and be a resource.
And I think that's the key term here, customer value. Everything we're trying to do through these marketing elements that we've discussed today, they sound overwhelming, but if you look at each one of them, it's so you can know your customer more, so you can figure out who your perfect customer is on that STP and how to position your product so you're the go-to person when they want that product. And then what types of product price distribution channel convenience and communication are you going to use to connect with your customer? And finally, your plan, you know, don't wing it. Figure out certain activities that you want to put into place, and then finally control the outcomes so that you can, you know, repeat for success. But really, marketing is, as you say, it's really, really about the relationship that you build with your clients, your suppliers, and your customers.
So really quickly though, Jacqueline, are you there? Jacqueline?
Yeah.
Hey, I have Wendi, I'd love to ask this question.
Hi, Jacqueline.
So Jacqueline is she's a clothing designer, but she's like a kind of a head to toe design house, right? So designs the clothes, is a style, you know, person, right? Like from head to toe can custom fit people, but Jacqueline, you can explain that more. But I was interested, Wendi, when you were talking about quality versus price versus that one, right?
Okay, yeah.
And I put in the chat because I think Jackie and I have been talking about this before too, because she's kind of high-end stuff.
Yeah.
And then, but you know, when you look online, there's all these boutiques and it's just retail, but it's like cheap stuff, right? And I was like, is it because fashion turns over so much and then you'll get it in the mail and you wear it for the season, it's cheap and you like give it away or whatever, or like the Ross dress for less. And I was talking to like Jackie is like, should she just be offering some simple things, like just some simple bandeau type things, or for her brand, is that just, and Jackie, feel free to discuss this. Like, I'm interested in your thoughts about quality versus price versus that, and how do you land and how you're going to make that decision for your business. Does that make sense, Jackie? Jackie, are you there?
I think she's unmuting. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, actually, for me, what I looked at, what I'm considering is the fact that the quality of the clothing that I plan to produce and having custom made items, there are a lot, things are kind of turning around in fashion. Fashion changes every 20, 25 years. But the old custom made designers and everything, that's also coming back. People are there, even though it's for maybe some of the younger set, they want the ready-made kind of stuff. But there are a lot of people that like specialty stuff. And there is a market there for people who want custom designs, and especially to have more like with me incorporating being able to do you from head to toe as part of my customer service for that design, being able to come in and know you going someplace, you have a particular event in mind, you can go to one place, you can get your hair done, you can get your face done, you can get everything done and come out of there and even get a ride to the location of where you're going. They don't have that.
So you're wanting a one-size-fits-all fashion guru kind
Somewhat like it was. It's based on the old-fashioned houses of the 40s.
Yeah, so stylist. You're a stylist, basically, that also creates the clothing, correct?
Yes. Okay,
great. Yeah, that's a great model. And that's, it brings to mind a particular target market. Do you have that kind of segment, target positioning kind of worked out for your customer base?
That's kind of still in progress. Mentally, I haven't actually put it down on paper, but in just kind of generally doing research, being that I was in the entertainment business before, and that kind of gave me a different insight on how I want to put this together and what customer I want to cater to and what price range I want to cater to. Because in Portland, there are a lot of boutiques here, but I found that in some of the more specialty shops, they're doing really doggone good because they're specializing, they're catering specifically to a customer.
I see. Do you have a boutique right now, or are you working freelance at the moment?
Freelance.
Okay, good. Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if, since you're a style expert, I guess you've probably explored boutiques where you could bring added value to some of their clients. And as a dresser, as a stylist for some of maybe their high dollar clients.
See, I did styling when I lived in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And what I also did is when I lived in Washington, up in Bellevue, Washington, I had private clients who I would design and make their outfits when they wanted to go to Vegas or New York or something like that. And they were I found I had more customers than I could handle. Because there are a lot of both women and men, especially here in Portland, men have taken over in fashion.
Interesting.
Here in Portland, to where they're more willing, they want more custom outfits and they want to be pampered like women are.
So that's very interesting. You have a lot of great ideas. It sounds like the former business models that you had need to be a little bit customized for Portland. And so if you saw success in your previous locations, I would, first of all, kind of fine tune where you think you want to head for sure. So whether you want to just be the stylist, but you said you were designing clothing, which I think is fabulous. You can almost harken back to the 1800s, where when you actually went to buy a dress, you visited your stylist and picked out the fabric and the fashion, everything else. The dress was made, you went in, you got fitted, this it's a kind of a, one-stop shop for great fashion. And so for you, I think it's just honing the idea of what your capabilities are right now, whether you want to stay as a stylist with some clothing on the side, or you want your fashion manufacturing to kind of be your primary business model, in which case you just kind of go in that direction and then add the styling part side of it on as a value added activity. It sounds like you could niche yourself and just do men, although it sounds like you do women's fashion instead of in terms of your manufacturing, but
I would
you have a lot of
also-
options here.
One of the other things that I wanted to also offer is that I don't want it to just be, I want my company not to just be on the fashion end. I also want to offer alterations.
Mm.
And not only just for the individual, but for other companies like hospitals and things like that, doing alterations for them, those sheets and all those things like that.
Wow.
So I want to incorporate that and bring in other, I also want to have a retail side of it.
So Jacqueline, before you go on, see, because that's what I'm talking about, Wendy, like that's a lot of different variables.
Yeah, there's
going
an
back to
answer to
that.
that.
Quality versus price
Mhm.
versus, how are you making a business, right?
Yeah.
So she has
Yeah.
a complex pricing structure, the way
Well, I
I
don't
do
know
it.
if it's so much. I think it almost sounds to me, and I could be wrong, but it almost sounds like, I mean, I love your ideas. It sounds a little bit like an organizational structure issue. You have, so in business planning, we often put our current plan and then we put future plans. And some of those future
Mhm.
plans could include add-on businesses.
Yes.
But you really have to make a start. You need to choose something, stick to that first, define the tight target market, and then it's focus, focus, focus. Because I see this a lot in small businesses. They're a little bit over ambitious to start and they don't do any of their great ideas well.
Mhm.
So if I could offer any advice, it would be you've got a number of great places to start. Pick the one that you think is going to be probably the most profitable to start. And it kind of sounds like your clothing design. And I think that would be an easy add-on with low costs would be to add the styling side onto that. And, the custom orders for events, because it all kind of goes together.
Mhm.
And then in terms of product line extension, in this case, service line extension, then you can go in some of the other directions that you'd like to go in. But I think entrepreneurs get super excited by their ideas, and they're all great ideas. I just think it's, again, the reason we use a marketing plan is to organize those ideas into some kind of a structure. Because think about your marketing mix now. You've got products, you've got all these great ideas that you can roll out for your customers in terms of your products and your services. But now you've got to go through pricing for all of those.
Yeah.
And again, price, quality, cool factor, status lines, all those kinds of things, how you're going to price them is all affected by the perception that you want customers to have of your business and your products. So there's a lot to think about. There's different promotional techniques for each of those product lines, but start with one, flesh it out using a marketing planning format, a kind of a framework. You don't need to use this one, but just get a marketing plan going and just start from there.
Nice. Okay, because we got to start to wrap it up here. Wendy, you asked one more question, and I'd love you to discuss that too. You said, how often should we be visiting our marketing plan, right?
Yes.
I put in the chat. What did you put in the chat, Jacqueline, or did you have a thought? And Maurice, I'd love you to answer it. Stephen, Chris, Ernest, anybody. How often do you think we should be visiting our marketing plans?
I think on a daily basis.
Daily? Wow. Whoa.
Well, your marketing is going to be basically the turnaround of how much. A strong marketing is going to determine how much income you're going to generate, how much revenue you're going to generate.
Go ahead.
And some of it can be automated. I visit mine every day. That way, I know the artists that I'm reaching out to and what type of. And I try different things. Sometimes I do email. The next time I might do flyer. Sometimes I might do door knocking, and sometimes I might run an ad. So I definitely do different one that I visit on a daily basis.
All right. Thanks, Maurice. Maurice, will you also put your email in the chat, please? And anybody else who wants to share with other people, if you want to connect with each other, put your emails in the chat, please. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And then what do you think, Jacqueline, how often should you visit your marketing plan?
I think, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think for me, it's with fashion being reconstructed, because of COVID. I think for me, I would have to revisit mine at least on a monthly basis, if not a weekly, until the market has has kind of turned itself around again.
Wow, I said quarterly just because I need the data. In order to make a proper decision, I feel like I need longer, but I could be super wrong here. Ernest, are you there? Maybe he's gone. Stephen, what do you think? Are you there?
Yeah,
Yes.
oh,
Oh, Ernest, go ahead.
Yeah. Ernest, go ahead. Yeah.
You're muted, Ernest.
Oh, I didn't have a comment. I just listened.
Okay. We were asking how often you think someone should revisit their marketing plan. Daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually.
Yeah, I think daily to weekly,
Wow.
just because it's a lot of moving parts, right? You
Mhm.
know, something could be trending one day, and then the next day something else could completely be trending, and that might be in the industry that you're in. And
Right.
so
I
yeah.
I think it depends on the type of business. Some businesses may have to check it daily. Some businesses may not have to check it for a week or a month. But when things change within a marketing plan or within a marketing structure with the climate of business, you have to actually look at the marketing plan when you see that coming. So some businesses it could be every day. Some businesses it could be weekly or monthly. But I think we should check it at least weekly, at least, no matter what kind of business we
Okay,
have.
thank you. All right, Wendy, we're gonna listen to your feedback on all this because we're all across the board on this.
Okay, so remember that the marketing plan is typically 75% of your business plan. So there's other elements in there, but most companies tend to do a top to bottom review of their marketing plan and their business plan at least once a year, sometimes twice a year. Now, that being said, all of your answers were great ones because what you're talking about, I think, Maurice, you've got a good handle on your control data. So I think it sounds like your sales, your margins, your costs, all of those kinds of things. That's under that control aspect of the framework that we were talking about today. And you want to keep a tight view on those at all times because those can shift. And then in terms of the other part of the plan, so implementation is another piece that you might want to keep an eye on, and in particular, you should have an implementation schedule. So Jacqueline, for you, that might consist of your overall launch plan. You might, say you want to open a storefront by October in time for Christmas. So that's in your implementation plan. You've got steps to get there. You want to see how your progress is going, the steps that it takes to get there. Then you want to have your rollout of some of your other product lines. You might have a bunch of PR events and some other events on your implementation plan and that you're going to roll out going forward. That plan becomes like your daily, what have I done today? What do I need today to reach the benchmark for that particular activity? So there are aspects of your marketing plan. Yes, you're going to want to look at daily. Some you want to just review quarterly to see how the numbers are looking, but try to do it top to bottom review at least once or twice a year. And you should include employees in that as well. Key employees, those that are, key personnel to help move you forward for success.
Nice. Wow. Okay, Stephen, I'm going to let you wrap this up because we've kind of gone way over time, but it was great. Obviously, there's a big need for this kind of a conversation and a dialogue.
We could dig into each one of these areas in depth.
Yeah. We got to see Maurice's entire workout, so that was a pleasure too. Thanks, Marie. I feel inspired.
Sorry, guys.
Jackie, I don't know if you're sewing or if you're folding the laundry. I'm not quite sure, but maybe you're making one of our fabulous pieces as we speak. But I do appreciate you guys showing up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, especially in the heat.
Oh yeah, definitely in the heat. And I believe that Ernest asked if there's going to be a part 2 of this series.
Well, Wendy, we'd love to
I
have
mean,
you for part
yeah,
2, 3,
yeah,
4, and 5.
I'd be happy to dig into any of these areas in particular. I can also talk about sustainable business if anyone has any interest in that. I also could do. I've worked in quality, so how to create a quality environment in your business if you're trying to always stay on top of that. If you've got a really small business, I think quality is pretty much top of mind anyway, but a lot of different things that can be talked about that actually are incorporated within the business plan. But yeah, any aspect of marketing, branding. I mean, I probably would find somebody that could do the financial stuff. As I said, I tend to be a little right-brained when it comes to marketing, but I can do one on branding if you'd be interested in that as well. So just shoot me an email. I think my email was in the invitation, but I'll put it on. With some thoughts or feedback, or if you would like to, have me dig deeper in any one of those topics, I'd be more than happy to.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so again, everybody, thank you for joining us. And again, Wendy, thank you for the wonderful presentation. If anyone would like to listen to this presentation again, or any of the past episodes of the Soul District Business Basics series, it will be available on the Soul District Business Association website, which is www.souldistrictbiz with the biz.org, so souldistrictbiz.org, or on YouTube at Flossin Media TV. Also, please follow us at Soul District Business Association on social media for any updates on the small business opportunities. If you have any other ideas or questions about the series, please contact us at 503-841-5032. And again, thank you, Wendy, for this wonderful deep dive into marketing and how to just approach it and what to expect from this journey to improve revenues and improve reach of your brand. And, again, thank you all for joining us, and we will see you hopefully in 2 weeks for another episode. And so, again, thank you, everyone, and be safe in the heat. You can't run a business if you don't have your health. So.
True. Thank you.
Thank you. See you.